Okay, let me just drag this screen over a little bit. And that way I can see, hopefully, if there's any messages. Oh, nice cup of tea. So, today I'm going to be working on my portrait again. Mostly this area, and hopefully in another couple of hours I'll be working on the bottom section again. So this stream's just started, and I'm just curious if it actually comes up in my feed anywhere. Don't know if there's anybody watching. Oh, there we go. Yeah, on YouTube I can see. Started 4 minutes ago. Instagram isn't quite as good. Let me just have a look on TikTok. Because this is a multi-stream. Yeah. Shows I'm going live over there. Telling me that I should lower the frames per second, but it's at 30, so it's lying. Just switch that on to mute. Bring that down. Strange. Don't seem to be coming up in the search. I don't know why. Oh well, a mystery for another day, I think. One of the things I've yet to have a look at is how, when you set up a live session or a live feed, how it's then brought up on the list. Are there any tricks, any ways of getting to the top of that list? That's next week. So right now I am going to start working on this. I think the music is just changing. There we go. Yeah, another track coming on. So putty rubber, graphite pencil, a white chalk and 2 charcoal pencils for those that are interested. And I'm going to slowly warm my kneaded eraser up so I can actually remove some of the charcoal. I want to reduce the values a little bit. I don't know about you, but I've had a nice little lunch and I'm ready to get this. I've been playing about with the studio. I hope the audio is coming across okay, because obviously this is only my third, fourth live feed now, and I'm tinkering with the audio every day. And I've actually just downloaded some new software, so I'm hoping my voice comes across okay, because in the background here I've got 2 dogs who bark occasionally and a noisy fan on my computer, so the noise reduction is pretty damn good. And again, this is just a kneaded eraser or putty rubber. Warm it up a little bit and it lifts some of the charcoal up, and in this case I'm wanting to reduce the value slightly. And again, the problem is you start working on these things for a couple of hours, and what tends to happen is you get caught up in the detail and you need to take a step back every now and again. So I'm still undecided how much of this at the top. There we go. I don't know whether you can hear that, but my Labrador's just barked. Obviously we've had a funny shaped leaf float by and she's alerting me to the matter. Quite funny this morning, actually. The Springer Spaniel, he doesn't actually bark very much. The bred not to really bark because they're flushing out and going after game for obviously the bred as gun dogs, and he's a working Springer. That's his pedigree. So he doesn't actually bark very much, but when he does, it's just a yip. And my Labrador, if she, like in this morning, and he was outside and yipped, she did a proper Scooby-Doo, flying across the laminate floor, trying to get traction. It was quite funny, bless her. She was trying as fast as possible to get out. Legs were going like crazy, and she wasn't moving. So there we go. I'm sure a few people out there, if you've got dogs, you will appreciate that. So this piece, I'm just trying to give it a little bit of a softer edge after looking at it last night. So the transitions reduce slightly. Obviously, as it gets nearer the viewer, these bands are thicker. Obviously, the clouds tapering off into the distance. And again, I might look at this a little bit later and decide, no, it's too much. And that's the joy of this. Because in part of making this bit up, I've got a reference photo below on my iPad. Give me a bit of an idea. Now a little bit of graphite over the top of it to knock it back just a little bit. Just very, very, very subtly blends the values together a little bit. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't know where this week has gone. But then I've been down a few technical rabbit holes. One of the problems is I've got an NVIDIA video card in my computer, and the noise cancelling software Studio Voice, I think it's called, while it was very good, it takes it up too far. I think it's in beta, and I think there's a little bit of a bug in it because it was using the graphics processor excessively. So that meant it was running a lot higher than it should have been, which meant it was hotter, which meant the fans were running a lot more, which is more noise, which then more noise cancelling, which so it went down that cycle. So I actually started looking at another piece of software last night, and it has taken a little bit more complex, a lot more settings, and that's this morning. I've sort of got my head around it eventually, made the tweaks, and I'm hoping you can hear me okay. And obviously one of the settings I've actually put into effect is when I do start talking, the music reduces in volume slightly. So, but then there will be stretches where I don't say anything. I've just started, so we'll see if anybody joins us and asks any questions. Let's have a look. Hey Joanne, I can see you joined on YouTube. No, sorry, Instagram. Hope you're all right. Probably see you on Sunday. We're going to see Richard's exhibition. Problem is, I don't know whether you're still there because there's not very many details on the live feed for Instagram. Out of the 3 platforms I'm streaming to, it's the least amount of information. So I've got no idea when people leave or whether they're just there for a few seconds or not. So yeah, I'm just reducing the value of this black area just a little bit. It was just a little bit too much, I thought, last night when I was looking at it. So when I stopped the feed, I actually took a step back and looked at it with a little bit more of a critical eye. Because like I say, it's quite easy to get bogged down in detail. And one of the easiest tricks to do is take a step back and just view it from a distance, and if the values all start to work, then that's not so bad. And again, the other two tricks: take a photograph of it and scale it right down. That's like you're walking away from it. Or, as a lot of people used to do, and I actually have a mirror here, you actually turn around and look at your artwork through the mirror. Again, that gives the same sort of view as looking at it from a distance, and it flips it, so it changes how you see the image in your brain, which is, for me, more handy when you're starting a new piece. That distance thing is how obviously sight size works, which is a method artists use to get all your proportions and start your artwork. I'll go back over this a minute with the darker one. Funny, I can actually see on my screen from the camera as well, which is obviously reduced in size, which is a little bit like, like I say, walking backwards away from your art. So it compresses all the values. You don't see the details. It's like if you're doing a portrait. If you see somebody at the other side of a room, you're doing the portrait, you wouldn't be able to see their eyelashes or anything like that. But what it does is stops you from going in and sorting the detail. So if you're copying from a photograph on your iPad or on your phone, reduce its size right down, and then you're not going to get bogged down in the detail first. It's a larger masses of what you're going to be used to. Which tomorrow, I think it's episode 5 of me talking about the Harold Speed book. Is it there? I think it's there. If you're not aware of this book, it's one of quite a few that a lot of ateliers and realist painters and drawers actually read. There, that one. So for the last 4 weeks, you can see them on my reels. I've been discussing the different concepts and theories and how he talks about drawing and how to draw and what drawing's about, which is quite good because it forces me to reread them. They can be a bit dry, which I thought would be a good exercise for some people if I actually went through it again, and if you're interested in drawing or learning how to draw. As they say, there's nothing new under the sun. A lot of these concepts and issues and difficulties have all been discussed before by our great-great-great-grandfathers. Well, not so great. Okay, that's looking better. I prefer that. So, nobody's asking questions yet, so I shall continue to ramble to myself. And one of the things, again, I noticed last night is I've actually lightened this side of the face slightly because it was very dark, which was too much of a contrast between the two portraits, where I've still got detail down the side of this profile on this side, and this one was quite dark. Now, the reference photos I took, I had a black non-reflective surface next to me to deaden the shadows, which to give it a bit more of an authentic feel to it, same as in a lot of the old masters paintings, because they only had one light source, the sun, unless they use candles. And the idea around this piece and the rough is to date that portrait, if you like, because some days I feel quite old, obviously born before the internet, and here I am streaming. I actually worked in IT for about 16 years before changing careers. Long story there. So this portrait, we can see a little bit of detail in it. I've kept it quite simple, block shapes. So this one was actually quite dark, and it's obviously the way the photographs were taken. This one seemed to be darker on that side than this one. So I've actually increased the brightness on the reference photos, brought a little bit more detail in here. But when when you take a step back or a few steps back and look at it, to me, the values here weren't quite right and round here. So again, once I've gone round these bits now, I think I'll be working on this bit next. It wasn't sitting quite right, so I'm going to have a look at that again. And that'll probably be another half an hour or so. Okay, see on TikTok there, you've asked a question, I've just missed it. I feel like you do a good job making Avery Palmer artwork. Interesting, that's a name I don't know. I'm going to have a quick look that one up. Avery Palmer. Anybody else know of Avery Palmer? Avery Palmer art, paintings, drawings, ceramics. Look at images. Okay, yeah, that's quite surreal. Not seen that work before. Reminds me sort of a Dali-esque. Yeah, and again, these type of paintings, I love it because there are stories behind it. And for me, there's a story behind this. Again, it's a self-portrait. This is me in the past, me in the future, but I'm looking at the viewer here, judgingly, almost. And this obviously represents the past, the weight of history, the rough. It's obviously very iconic in a lot of portraits from yesteryears in history. And I thought it'd be a good concept. I actually went down to London last year to the National Portrait Gallery, I think it was. Was it Van Dyke? I can't remember. It's a guy with this. It really just hit me, the way he was staring and the little beard and things like, oh, that'd be cool as a self-portrait to replicate that. And obviously my idea then expanded around that. And again, it's past and future. The background, the sky, is the dark looming clouds. And obviously, if you live in the past, it's depression. If you live in the too far in the future, it's anxiety for unimagined problems. And the little bit of sunshine there is my way of saying every cloud has a silver lining. I don't know if you've heard that phrase or not, but there's always something good in most things. And you don't get to my age without going through a few battles, so I can categorically say there are silver linings. I'm qualified. So yeah, so that's what this is about. And there's a little, I've written a passage to it, and it's about digital artwork these days. I mean, one of the things that hit me last year, and I've not, obviously after COVID and everything else, not being out to galleries, not seeing much artwork. And one of the things that really hit me was when you actually go to a gallery. Big shout out to the Cooper Gallery in Barnsley, near where I live. There was a piece there, I can't remember the artist, unfortunately, but it was one of the first pieces that I'd seen since COVID and everything, and it just hit me. And it was almost like a sunset, and there was some red, rustic colours paint in it. and the way the light in the gallery hit it, it just hit me. It was visceral, and I find that incredible. I really do. The difference between seeing something printed and the way the space and artwork is actually presented, the way it's hung with a light on it, it's such a tangible, for me, it feeds my soul. And that's one thing about art. And this, in the passage, I want to put that across as well, because once you switch the lights off, the digital artwork's gone, yet the artwork remains in the gallery. There's a difference, and not just, that's obviously quite obvious, turn a digital piece off, it's gone, until you turn it back on again. But there is a fundamental difference between digital artwork, even printed artwork, and actually seeing the originals on the wall. It's tangible. I don't know if many people have actually been to see artwork. If it's something you're only just getting into, or something you're interested in, if you're interested in art or artistry, go to the galleries, go and see the artwork. It's such an amazing difference. And for me, I was almost in tears when I went to London last year. Again, seeing some of the artwork that I saw printed as a young boy, and to see it there laid out in front of you is just incredible. And I can't wait to go again. Actually, I'm going to make it at least a couple of times a year, trip down to London, just for that, to feed my soul, just to enjoy the arts. It's I think it's what human is all about. So anyway, that's my ramblings for a few seconds. That was a good comment. Although you've scrolled off the screen now. That artist, it was quite surreal, a little bit Dali-esque, I'd say, but more cartoonish, if that makes sense. I might have to go and check on my dogs in a minute, because since I actually moved into this studio space, which is one of the front rooms in the house, it used to be the dining room, they've actually slept quite peacefully in the day under my desk, and they both disappeared, so they might have taken themselves off to have a sleep in the kitchen where the baskets are, the dog baskets. One of the other things as well worth mentioning, last night I was looking at the horizon line, and I actually did that by eye, just sitting back with a pen, but I think with a pencil, charcoal pencil, and quickly drew very roughly where the horizon should go. So I think later I'll be getting a tape measure and holding it and just double checking to make sure it looks okay to my eye, but I want to double check it and make sure. I think again, that was something last night that I sort of thought to myself, Again, just this little piece now. I'm just compressing the values very slightly. It's quite subtle actually. The graphite just pushes it back just a little bit with the darks. Darkens the lights just slightly. Lifts the darks a little bit. I actually quite like it on this piece. How that's doing, especially with the symbolism with the every cloud has a silver lining. Quite interesting how it catches light. Because I've got the light behind me from a natural source from the window. Which again, one of the things I'm looking at in my old studio in the other room, which my partner now occupies. I'd actually just bought myself some daylight bulbs. So I've got to figure out with this light in here, buy myself some more daylight bulbs. I can't remember off the top of my head. There are a couple of different standards. Not just Kelvin, there's something else as well. Which I should know off the top of my head being a photographer. But I can't remember the exact name for it, but there's two standards anyway. And I've actually got some normal bayonet lights for the other room. There are LED ones in here, so I've got to do a bit of research again and try and match up what I did with the other bulbs for in here. If you've got the audio on, I hope you're nice and relaxed now. Nice cup of tea, chilled. Let's go back a little bit more. Because it's quite interesting how light affects colour and value range. How the photons from the light bounce off the object and then hit the retina at the back of the eye. And that gets converted to colour. Depending on how much the intensity of that light depends on how intense the colours are or we perceive them to be. Which again, that was a few years ago. That really hit me when I went away on holiday. And it was been a few months over here, same as now, where it was so horrible, the weather. I can remember waking up the next day. It got to Cyprus, I think it was. Well, the next day I woke up and the sun was so intense, and just the colours in the flowers, and it really just incredible. I thought it was, and that is, I actually while I was on holiday, I was sat on the sun lounger and downloaded a book on the science of light and started to understand that was it. It's the wavelength of the photon and how that bounces off things, the light scatters, and obviously it's the back of the retina, and the brain converts that into how we perceive colour. But it's actually just a wave. It's just a photon travelling very fast. And it's just how we as humans have adapted to see that colour range. And different animals see it at different parts of the spectrum. Oh, fascinating. Well, fascinating if you like that kind of thing. I'm just the kind of guy that I need to know everything about something when I decide I go down rabbit holes. Okay. Not far off. I'm from checking the horizon. We're starting on the. Just reminded me of something that if you're interested in drawing, and they tell you one of the things that they're teaching, you won't be able to see it from there, I don't think, but actually down in the corner, especially, it's not too bad elsewhere, but I've just actually rubbed over this area a little bit, and it leaves behind little black dots, little clumps of charcoal. And when you see the academic academic techniques, one of the things that you do to get a really smooth texture is get it's why it takes so long with a lot of that type of artwork. You get your little putty eraser you needed, and you actually take those little clumps out one at a time, very slowly and methodically. And with parts of it, I actually quite like how they've been left. But this little bit, I want to remove them. And obviously when I've finished this next stage, doing the lower part of the drawing, I'll need to apply some fixative. I would get nervous when applying fixative. The piece I've actually got hanging behind me. Now then, it was Winsor & Newton. It might not have been fixative I was using. And the light charcoal that I was using, it just disappeared. And I had to redo quite a substantial part of it as well. If you've seen that one before, the Codex of Man, the last piece I was working on. Turned out better anyway. It was all good eventually. That's most of them lifted. Okay. Okay. Hey Osvaldo, I don't know if you're still with us on Instagram. I can see there are, okay, 150 views with 11 concurrent on YouTube, but can't see any details of anybody's names. I don't know why. I tested that yesterday and it seemed to be working. If you've got any questions, try it out. Send me a chat message. Let's see if it's working. On TikTok, there's lots of people I can see scrolling past. And again, on TikTok, I don't know whether this is just when they they're flicking past a live session or not. I've yet to completely figure out how TikTok works. It seems to be very active. A few questions yesterday. I think I've got somebody who's actually followed me as well, which is obviously scrolled past, which is one of the worst things about this. I think I'm gonna have to get a little table with my keyboard and mouse on it next to me so I can scroll up and down the screens. So, but now I'm actually streaming. All these little bits will just add to it, and I'm hoping in a couple of weeks' time that I'll do some draw-alongs. I'll set a project going, maybe an atelier academic style. Who knows? If you've heard of bag drawing, bag plates, I might start one of those maybe on a Friday afternoon or a Thursday night or something. You can join me with the ideas I've got going around. So one of the things worth noting is I'm actually just about to open the doors to my atelier, my online atelier, for some founding members. There'll be more news on that on my website and on my feeds shortly. Hopefully in the next 2 weeks or so. And that'll be limited for the founding members anyway. Yeah, that looks a bit better. Okay, right. So, bottom. Okay. So I might be quiet for a little bit because I just need to get my head around now where and how the shadow shapes and the blocks are going to go to give, again, be quite abstract, same as the clouds now, not as much detail is applied in the face, because again, that's the way the composition works. Got a triangle there, and then we've got a triangle there, and then everything else brings back in to the faces. So I'm going to make sure that with these lines that come in, how well it supports the composition. So I know that one's going to come there. It does go there. There's like a zip there. Just have to check that. It's cropped off on this photo, I think. I'm going to have a look at the original photo, see where that shoulder comes in. I have to, in my original composition for this, they were a little bit further apart. So I have to give a more of an impression of this one coming behind the other. Something like that, I think. Yeah. Again, I've just got to be aware of the shadow from the roof. And how much of material is shown. And how deep these shadows are from. And again, I'm trying to get that curve coming back in again. And this is the difference between the academic and impressionistic styles. So if you're going from 0 to 100, and 0 being very strict scientific, hyper-realistic type drawings that are basically a mechanical transfer from one image to another, a drawn or painted piece. And then right to the other extreme, you've got Picasso's even, and a few other artists like that, where it's very impressionistic and almost abstract. On that scale, sort of your academic is 10 to 30 maybe, and then 30 to 60 is your by degrees. It's coming across around 60 to 60 maybe 70 of people like John Singer Sargent with their styles, and then obviously it's by degrees. So I sit probably just under that, at around that 60, 50 to 60. So it's bordering or coming over. Well, that's how I feel. I sit in that area where you've got that academic training and style, but then it's what decisions do you make to make it more of an art piece. So, and obviously, once you've got the understanding of the structure from the initial training, and that's mostly masters like John Singer Sargent and people like that, they had a very formal education and academic training and academic rigor. But then they decided to become more impressionistic, but they already had the guides and guide rails, if you like, the framework in place for them to actually experiment and play more, for want of a better word. But even saying that, somebody like John Singer Sargent, they would complete something like a charcoal drawing, head drawing in about 4 hours. A full figure would be, several to 14 sittings for a figurative piece. People seem to forget that these things take time, and that's why a lot of people get frustrated. They're expecting things, in today's society where everything's now. They forget that, well, that's not possible. We are human. Actually, I'm not going to do that bit because I need to double check the horizon line. So, no questions? No more questions? Excuse me. Hey Chase, how you doing? Okay, one of the things just so you're aware now that I'm looking at is edge control. So you can see this, obviously when I do the bottom piece, will actually be a collar of some description with a slight highlight on it. And then the shadow that's cast by it is actually quite a strong shadow. So it's got a strong line, there's high contrast there between the fabric and the shadow. And then this piece, just here, is a very, very soft shadow. The transition from the light is a lot more subtle. So I'm just, and that's when people talk about edge control, this is what they're usually talking about. Is it a nice soft edge or is it a very hard edge? And it's those observations that make all the difference. And it's over time developing your eye to see these more and more, easier and easier. Let's see if I can clean that up a little bit. It's going to be too much with the stump. Go back over it again. So you probably see it start to build up now. Okay, I'm going to have 5 minutes now, and then I'm going to break for a cup of tea and maybe a biscuit. First. Again, just using the kneaded eraser to pick out some highlights, take some of the charcoal away. Refine it a little bit more in a second. We're leaving some of this quite rough actually. Again, just to give an indication of the fabric, the light hitting it. I need to check the original reference photos. They're quite dark on the reference photo I've actually used on my iPad, so it's missing quite a bit of detail. Okay. I think for the moment that will actually do. So I'm going to end this stream. Go and have a cup of tea. What time is it? I'll probably be back in about 20 minutes. So I hope you've enjoyed that. I'm gasping, as we say in Yorkshire. I need a cup of tea and a biscuit. So don't forget, I'll be back again shortly. This is just a bit of relaxing music and just seeing how this develops. If that works for you, I'll see you soon. Oh, Arshad, Mohammed, thanks mate, much appreciate the comment. Plenty of practice. But if you've just joined, mate, I've been streaming for about an hour and 10 minutes now. I'm just going to have a cup of tea in a minute, and then that's me, I think. I'll be back in probably about half an hour or so. I've got to check on the dogs, like I say, in this studio here, under my desk where all my screens and things are. 2 blankets, a Labrador and a Springer Spaniel. They usually go under there and go to sleep, but they've disappeared about 20 minutes ago. So I've got no idea what they're up to. I'm hoping they've just gone back to the beds in the kitchen and they've gone to sleep. So hope you're enjoying that, and I'll be back shortly.